Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Ben.
And I'm John.
And this is the moment you've been waiting for all last year. You're the best around of 2018 movies.
You're the best.
We're getting into our favorite films of 2018. And we're not going to do a worst of list because we're trying to keep it positive here.
We're trying to keep it positive. But 2018 was a pretty weak year, in my opinion. I just did not find too many films that I was that high on.
To me, these ones that we're going to talk about are the ones that are the best pictures, not what the Oscars threw out of their anus last week. These are some of the honorable mentions that are going to take place before our 11 through 1.
So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
You really ready?
I think so.
You ready, player? You ready, Player One?
Oh, God.
Because that's my first honorable mention. Ready, Player One. Spielberg finally leaving the dull American history lesson of Lincoln, spies, and the Post behind him for a return to adventure filmmaking. One of the best in the biz, brings video games and the world of online avatars to life in an inventive thrill ride. It's a visual feast that's overstuffed with pop culture references and figurative and literal Easter eggs. Welcome back to the fun side, Steven. Upgrade. Found this to be just a great sci-fi concept packaged in a fun, exciting romp. Knockoff Tom Hardy does better than the real thing, in my opinion. And it was just a fun film that felt like a throwback to Verhoeven films of the 80s. We have The Wife. This is the Glenn Close film that she's up for Best Actress. Great performances by Glenn Close, Jonathan Pryce, and Christian Slater, somebody who we don't see enough of these days. Close, I think, definitely deserves the Oscar in my book. The story unfolds in an intriguing way. It has some nice twists and turns, great dialogue throughout, and it's an interesting look at a writer's voice and where that originates from. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
I need to check out The Wife.
Yeah.
Only when her husband's not home, though.
My last honorable mention at number 12, we get A Quiet Place. I liked the approach of this post-apocalyptic concept. Keeping the focus on a family in isolation, I think, worked really well. The family drama is done very well in the film. Excellent performances all around. Emily Blunt being the standout from the cast, obviously. But John Krasinski stands out with his direction. I think he does a really good job creating tense and taunt moments all throughout. And the sound design sells the concept of this world of silence filled with nightmares.
To start, I have sort of a tie for what I call sort of the neo 80s synth revenge films that kind of feel like one piece to me, and that's Mandy and Revenge. Really strange movies, both pretty much based on horrific, violent, gory revenge plots. Equally as hard to watch. Very different in style, but both shot extremely well. Mandy, they used a lot of different colored plastic bags around the lenses of the cameras, and when you see the way the film is lit, it's one of the coolest looking movies I've seen in a while. It's just very beautiful and fantasy-like. Nicolas Cage is fucking batshit crazy in it. And Revenge is a little bit harder to watch. Both of those movies combined make for sort of like an honorable mention. So next up, I'm going to go Tully. This was a powerhouse Charlize Theron performance. This was a nice return to form from Diablo Cody doing her script. And also Jason Reitman doing 2 movies last year. This one actually, I think, getting a little bit more. He did another one called The Front Runner.
Oh, that was a Jason Reitman.
Yeah. And Tully got a tiny bit more recognition, but both pretty much left in the wind, unfortunately. But I loved Tully. It's a very short movie. Has a nice little kind of contemporary twist to it that I liked. A good, solid one. My next pick is not a narrative film. It's Won't You Be My Neighbor, and it is an incredible documentary that I did not expect to hit me the way it did. I had no idea I'd have any interest in this movie, but I kept hearing how good it was, and this movie made me cry. It was an amazing film. So many things to learn about Fred Rogers that I didn't know. I was one of the people who just thought he was a weirdo, but he was so much more into child development and child education than I ever knew, and he was a very important part into keeping PBS alive and going and having all that kind of programming for kids. That movie blew me away. It was a great documentary. First Man is another honorable mention. This is Damien Chazelle, possibly at his most subdued, definitely his most toned down, and definitely his most mature film. It's not for everyone. I admire the ambitious way he decided to take Neil Armstrong's character and what he decided to focus on. I still think it's a beautiful looking movie. I still think it's a really well-paced movie and well-acted movie. I just don't think it was exactly what people wanted it to be. It's not really what you call a crowd pleaser. It's so much more of an in-depth character study than anything else, and I admired it for that. Tag! I loved Tag. Tag is everything about like the bonds of men and friendship of men, and keeping that spirit alive no matter how old you get. Play a game if you have to. Our friends get together and we do all kinds of things that we did as kids. This movie makes you feel that, and it's a good time movie, and it's really freaking funny. I love Tag. I love John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, Jake Johnson. It's such a great cast. Underappreciated script, I think. It was my favorite comedy. One of my favorite comedies. I can't remember what else is on the list, but that is my last honorable mention.
Number 11?
We are taking it up to 11.
All right, in this corner, weighing in at number 11, we have Creed 2! All right, I just love the Rocky films. It's one of my favorite film series overall. I don't think there's a bad movie in the bunch, even number 5. I think the Creed storyline is a great way to continue the Rocky series and still keep up all the best traditions of the Rocky series. I think that this was a really strong sequel to the first Creed. It doesn't live up to the first Creed. There's some moments, some elements of it that aren't as strong as the first one, but it's a good sequel. Good continuation of the story. I've heard that Stallone is calling it quits. This may have been the last one. I hope
He never calls it quits.
I hope it's not true and we get one more round with Rocky. On to my number 10, we have Tully. And I agree with you. It's a amazing performance by Charlize Theron. Very committed performance by her. One of the funniest films of the year for me. Very sharp writing by Diablo Cody, I thought. The film has great energy that's found in the editing and the direction. And I just liked that it was a nice, short, fun film that had an unexpected conclusion.
And all hail Ron Livingston. Okay, coming in at number 11 for me is Black Klansman. This is a film with a voice, a clear purpose, an off-the-wall, semi-true premise, and very off-the-wall performances. I think that Adam Driver really stands out. But the person who's been very thankless in his performance in this movie is Topher Grace, playing young David Duke, who I thought was outstanding. Isn't getting any of that love that Adam Driver's getting. When you really rewatch that movie, one has a much harder task than the other. And I think his name is it John David Washington?
Yes.
That's Denzel Washington's son, who's got charisma and has presence, but when he talks, I'm so distracted because he sounds exactly like Denzel Washington.
The same effect while watching this.
Spike Lee, when he hits, which isn't a lot for me, but when he hits, he fucking hits. I'm talking about stuff like 25th Hour, Inside Man. Such a fun way to tell sort of a really serious, crazy story. The reason it didn't end up a little higher is because he gets in his own way a lot. He's done this his entire career. I think he's one of the strongest filmmakers when it comes to technical filmmaking. He's trying to speak to certain people, and sometimes I feel I'm not one of those people. Other than that, I think it's a great, fun ride. Black Klansman is a great movie. Number 10 from me is a movie I know my counterpart over here hates, Suspiria.
I thought we weren't doing a worst of list. What are you doing here?
I think this movie is rich, mysterious, gorgeous, it's sadistic. I love the look. I love the distinct differences between this and the original. And I really love the fact that the director really challenged himself by keeping this in the 70s, by keeping this in Russia. He could have just made a modern day update of this movie and just turned it into camera phones and blah, blah, blah. But he kept it in that setting. And I just think there's so much dark magic about this movie. I think it's beautifully made. It had me at every second. And for a movie as long and as wordy as it is, that's a very hard thing to do. But I was just in love with this movie from beginning to end. Just everything about it sucked me right in. So for me, my number 10 movie of the year is Suspiria.
Moving on to number 9 on my list, Bad Times at the El Royale. Boy, this is a fun movie. One of the best ensemble casts of the year. Great characters and great performances all throughout. Very fun story structure. Keeps the mystery alive just long enough to keep you hooked. Has some really nice twists and turns throughout. Great dialogue. Excellent use of music to set mood and tone throughout the film. Some great bits of humor and some very serious dramatic moments peppered in as well. The direction, cinematography, and production design all stand out as very memorable from this year's flock of films. It was just a solid film. Overall, it was an enjoyable film. Moving on to my number 8, we have 8th Grade. Just a little film that no one's really talking about as much as they should be. Really, this is a film that should have been up for a screenplay nomination by the Academy. I honestly think that the lead actress, Lisa Fisher,
Ilse Fisher.
Ilse Fisher, she deserved to be nominated, in my opinion. This is A24 nailing another low-budget indie gem. I feel like this is the coming-of-age movie that Edge of 17 and Lady Bird were supposed to be. The director captures so much stark realism while presenting the film that's a vibrant, energetic, edgy, and artistic film. The synth techno score is used to devastating effect during some of the year's best edited sequences. One of the best screenplays of the year, filled with many true-to-life moments of adolescent joy and pain. It never pushes too far into melodrama or sensationalized versions of youth angst. It's got the right mix of drama and humor, grounded by one of the best performances of the entire year. Fisher is a revelation, so real, so relatable, so believable in every scenario. Impressive for her age, for sure. There are moments in this film that are cringeworthy and frustrating, like watching something out of Swingers, but they're done right. They're supposed to be that way. They're hard to sit through at times, but thankfully the film very effective, and thankfully the film never went overboard where I thought it was eventually going to go. I was worried the whole time for this little girl's, where this story was going to go. It feels like the kind of movie that I would like to see a sequel 10 years down the road, like Before Sunrise, where I want to check back in with not just her dad, all of her friends, or the group of kids that we meet in this film. I would like to see where their lives go.
My number 9 is also Bad Times at the El Royale. This is one of the best crafted films of the year. It's beautiful. I love the world created. I think it's just amazing. It's so refreshing to see a director like Drew Goddard try new things and create atmosphere and create unique tension that you don't always see. And this isn't based on something else. It mixes so many different genres together. We have pulp mystery, comedy, horror, drama, everything I love in cinema all wrapped up into one film. Technically, there's so many awesome, unique camera tricks and different set pieces used by Godard to really focus in on creating the atmosphere of this fictional hotel that I wish was real, because it's there. And there's so many stories you could tell placed at this hotel. I think you could make a movie at the El Royale like every few years and create a completely different caper and a different mystery. It doesn't have the strongest third act, which keeps it from being any higher, because for a while it was one of my top 3 to 5. It just falls off a little bit, but it's such a strong piece of filmmaking on a technical level and creativity. Yes. Let's never forget that you can be ambitious with creative thinking, and that's what this movie has a lot of. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but they shoot for the fences. Is that what they say?
Swing for the
fences. Sorry. My number 8 pick is also 8th grade.
Nice.
You can see how different our lists are shaping up to be. This is a real, rough, realistic look at one's young life, especially one as awkward as this one was. I relate to this movie in every sense. I actually moved to Lake Forest in the 7th grade, started school in the 8th grade, so I was the new, young, awkward person at my school. I know how brutal it is, how fucking little bastards 8th grade kids can be, boys and girls alike. And Elsie Fisher just really represents what it feels like to be that age, and she is that age. It's aided by some great writing. I love her dad. Her dad's he's naive, but he's loving and supportive, and he's goofy. You're right, this movie doesn't go over the top with some of that stuff. At points you're like, uh-oh, is it going to?
Yeah.
But it really doesn't. Not knowing if someone I meet is fucking with me or being genuine, is really wanting to be my friend. Throw in the addition of social media and the differences that come along with today's youth. Because if you try to relate to this movie from our age, things were a lot different. But you throw in all those other elements and you think of how much more brutal and embarrassed things can become for you. And I think she's a revelation too, and she just crushes it in this movie. She's the best thing about the movie. I love the energy and the willingness to not hold back on the awful truths of this age and how awful and brutal kids can be to one another. She really shows the truth behind those eyes for sure.
Sorry, I have to change into my secret identity. Hello! What was my character name? I forget.
You're
the Crotch Rocket. This is the Crotch Rocket here to tell you about number 7, which is Incredibles 2. This was just a great sequel to the original. The action is still top-notch. Gadgets are inventive. The characters are a lot of fun. There's a lot of new powers on display in this film. Funny moments with some of the smaller characters from the first film that really stand out in this one. Jack and Edna Mold. Great to have the whole gang back, even though there were some new characters in this film that I didn't really love. There's some issues with the writing in this movie compared to the original. But the animation still looks great. I think the direction is still top-notch by Brad Bird. He brings back the excitement and gives a very natural continuation to the storyline. So as a Pixar film and as a continuation of the Incredibles storyline, I really enjoyed this one. My number 6 is one of the only true Oscar players that made my list, and that's Green Book. It was a feel-good movie that really worked for me. 2 of the best performances of the year. I think that Viggo and...
Isn't it Hugo Weaving and Martin Lawrence?
But Viggo and Mahershala are a great on-screen duo, excellent together, very funny, very touching at times in the film. There's a lot of humor in the film to contrast the more heavy side of the story, but it really works in my opinion. It's got a great screenplay, great dialogue. One of the few films that when I saw it felt like a Best Picture worthy film, and one of the only feel-good movies of the year that actually lived up to that title. I really felt good coming out of this movie. It was a great time at the cinema.
This is another one that you're gonna vastly differ from, and that's Mission Impossible Fallout. It's the best action movie, one of the best action movies of the year. I now have to say it's my second favorite Mission Impossible movie behind 3. I think there's character development, so much entertainment. It's everything I was hoping about after hearing from how the stunt work was going to be handled and how the world building was going to continue. I like that they've now decided to kind of keep villains alive from one movie to the next. This one really does string together a lot of characters and relatives and things like that from past Mission Impossible movies. Other characters, I think that works really well. I love the cast of this movie. I thought the chemistry was just off the charts because Christopher McQuarrie finally nailed what I didn't think he nailed with Rogue Nation quite as much was that joy, that joyfulness of Ghost Protocol, but with more of the character stuff from Mission Impossible 3. So I thought it was a slam dunk. I loved it. I bought it on Blu-ray. I watched it again. I turned it up with the surround sound. It's fucking so fun to watch. So my number, this is Steelboy here, otherwise known as Bob Knobson. I can't fucking see.
No, neither can I.
So my number 6 movie is Incredibles 2. What a joy to finally see this franchise back. Not only back, but proven to still have a reason to exist and not be just an overhyped movie that doesn't deliver, right? It earns everything it gets. It took 14 years to make this movie. This is everything I wanted it to be. It's just entertaining, just as entertaining as the first. Maybe not quite as good, just different enough to merit its existence. Brad Bird, thank you for coming back, not throwing the kitchen sink, having it take place right after the first one, and just giving us another story instead of overblowing the shit out of everything with a, hey, guess what? It's 14 years later. We're finally doing it. And it just sucks and it's just overblown. This was just another tight, isolated story. These superhero team-ups are the most fun to watch. And man, I popped the biggest boner for Elastigirl in this movie.
So we are moving on to number 5, which in my opinion, the top 5 is what I consider the true Best Picture list of the year.
Same here.
So
we're breaking out the beers.
Breaking out the beers.
Boo! Yeah, wait about 5 minutes to drink that. So while his foam is going down, we're gonna read our next 1 through 5.
Do I have a milkshake or what? Number 5 is Muriel's Satanic Wedding. We're talking about Hereditary here.
That's good.
Holy shit. I was scared to watch this movie. Ben and I have talked about it. This was one of the last movies I was able to bring myself to watch this year. I owned the DVD for about 6 months and left it on my shelf afraid to watch it.
You're a big pussy, Sheriff.
I am a big pussy.
That's the most pussy thing I've ever heard.
What a dark and twisted tale this is. It was a hard film to stomach at times. It's just so tragic and evil. It makes me want to rush out to church and ask for forgiveness for having seen this movie. From a first-time director who seems to have a really strong grasp of thematic storytelling, the themes of loss, grief, and our past, specifically family, how they shape our world, are used to devastating effect. Toni Collette gives one of the most emotional and heart-wrenching performances in years. Totally snubbed by the Oscars. Ridiculous. She deserved at least the nomination. The brutal relationship between the mother and son in this film is heartbreaking to witness at times. Some of the best dramatic scenes, as well as some of the scariest scenes of the whole year. Great psychological horror movie, paced really well, with many thrills, chills, and emotional gut punches. My issues with the film are just how believable the overall elaborate plan needs to be, and overall it's a really strong, dramatic film, a frightening film, one that sticks with you, that haunts you, has moments you'll never forget. Okay, if you can't tell, my number 4 film is Isle of Dogs. Wes Anderson's masterpiece of animation. I said that back when we did our full review, and now it's confirmed. In my opinion, this is truly a masterpiece of animation. Definitely the funniest film of the year for me. I just love the details in this movie. The way it looks, the details in the animation, the details in the character design, the production design. I mean, it's 100% a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
You can't watch it and not think Wes Anderson, but it's just so well done. Great writing, which you usually always get with Wes Anderson. Great characters. Every character really stands out and comes to life the way it needs to. Just a really impressive, unique film. One of the most unique films of the year, but also familiar because it's a Wes Anderson film. So it fits both things. It's Wes Anderson, so that's familiar, but really there's nothing else like this year. Nothing else out there in the world of animation from what he's doing. And it just really stands out to me. I know some people clamor that Spider-Verse is the best animated film of the year. No, in my opinion, Isle of Dogs deserves that Oscar.
All right, I can't read in this thing either.
No,
But my number 5 is Avengers Infinity War. And now, I know this one seems like an odd choice, but I think that the achievement alone is enough to give it one of these top 5 spots. It's, dare I say, a marvel of a movie. It's world building. Brings so many characters together from all these different franchises within the MCU. I know we've said this all before. People have been sucking this movie's dick all year long. It's incredible though. Like, there's nothing to fault about the movie. I mean, it's long, but I was happy it was long. I almost wanted it to go on longer. It was so exciting and so much fun. I showed this movie to my dad over Christmas. He's never seen any of these Marvel movies, and he was just glued to this movie. I don't know if he knew what the fuck was going on, but he was completely glued to it all the way until the end. And it's a long movie, and he's got fucking hardcore narcolepsy. So coming in at number 4 for me is Isle of Dogs, the exact same spot John had it on his list. A true animated treasure. It's really too bad that the steam on this one sort of died off and the attention seems to be on Spider-Verse, like you said. I really do think this is up there with some of my favorite animated features of the past 20 years, just for its creativity. It's so funny, wildly creative. It's full of heart, like most of Wes Anderson's movies are. It's a movie for dog lovers and the spirit of the bond between people and their furry loved ones. Recently, having lost my Sadie Sue, which has been a difficult time, this movie really hit me hard. The animation is unique and stunning, as is the story itself. Wes Anderson always just creates these unique worlds. With the budgets that he has, he creates his own fictional worlds, and they're always mesmerizing and one of a kind. Rough.
Excellent. We're moving on to the big 3, the top 3, where we actually give out some of these. The number 3 film is going to get the VHS tape.
Number 3 goes to the VHS.
Number 2, I believe, gets the
goes to the mini DV tape.
Mini DV tape, and the number 1 film of the year is going to get the film canister.
Get the 16mm film.
There we go.
All very relevant film formats in 2019.
Okay, I believe our next film was actually shot on the VHS tape here. It's Avengers Infinity War.
Quality looked about the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Amazingly enough, a Marvel movie, a comic book movie, is coming in at number 3 for me.
Holy crap.
Avengers lived up to what we want all these exciting comic movies to be. As you said, it's so rewatchable. It's something that, even though it's a long film, every time you put it on, you want to get to the end of it. It's very exciting, and it really is leading you to an exciting conclusion, obviously. In fact, there's some of the most dramatic moments in the Marvel series with Gamora and stuff in this film. what's his name? Balls Chin. Thanos is an excellent villain character, very compelling. I like that they give him a lot of screen time that's not just focused on the heroes. We've learned enough about the heroes at this point. But all the characters that we finally wanted to see come together, like seeing Doctor Strange and Iron Man, Doctor Strange and Tony Stark come together, and the way that the friction between the two. I loved that. Star-Lord finally being introduced to the rest of the group.
Those three together.
Thor being introduced to Star-Lord. There's so much humor in those scenes. The movie balances a lot of great things. Great humor. Excellent action. I had complained about the Russo brothers' action, the fall off from Winter Soldier to Civil War. Well, I think they brought it back with this one. Still having action that you could follow and understand. So it's just such a kick-ass action movie. It's a great... Not the conclusion, but the work that they put in to build up to this point in the MCU, it was very deserved. They did a great job working to this point and really delivered a great film that lives up to everything we wanted to see.
So number 3 on my list, this is one of the films this year I totally regret that Cinema Gulp had to miss out on getting invited to the premiere and the Q&A with the director Bart Layton and the cast, and this is American Animals. This is Layton's first narrative feature. Having directed documentaries up to this point, he directed one of my all-time favorite documentaries called The Imposter, which came out in 2012. So nice to see him use this powerful skill set on narrative film, crafting the film as a much grander and intense version of a documentary reenactment. He skillfully uses the actors along with the actual people for whom the film is based on, mixes them together in the narrative. It's these college assholes that decide to run a really quirky, misguided heist on their college library to steal some rare books. It's funny as shit. It's quirky. It's original. Evan Peters owns this movie. He's becoming one of the best character actors to watch and just steal scenes from other actors that he's surrounded by. And just to throw this out there right now, this is the best edited movie of the year for me. The way the stories are crafted with the documentary and the narrative story, it's not just a documentary with reenactments in it. The sole focus of the movie is the narrative, but the way that the original people that the movie's based on get mixed into the story, then out of nowhere start talking about it as if it's a documentary. It's really interesting. You're never confused, even though the editing is so manic and so much fun to sit through. Half of the fun of this movie, you have the actors being fantastic in their roles, and then you have the editor having so much fun cutting this narrative together. You know that Layton said this movie's going to rely on the editing strengths because of the way it's told from two completely separate formats of film, documentary and narrative film. It's definitely my pick for the best editing of the year. Not even in the conversation. I'm guessing the editing nominees in the Oscars are just the movies that are up for Best Picture. That's usually the way it goes.
We're on to number 2, which is going to be the winner of the mini DV tape, Slender Man. You've heard of Slender Man, right? Slender Man.
Is this a joke?
No, you wouldn't believe it. Wait. No, I'm sorry. Early Man. That's what I meant. Early Man.
I do not know what that is.
Okay. I'm sorry. First Man.
Oh.
I'm trapped in my space pod here. This was the best technical achievement of the year, in my opinion. I think it was just the best well-made movie in terms of the direction, the cinematography, everything coalescing just to be what I like in traditional filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's not trying to be anything more than just tell a good story and make it very believable. And obviously, dealing with the space program, there's special effects incorporated in this film to pull it off, but it all feels very real and believable.
It feels very optic in camera.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Nothing is seen as a special effect, which is great. Great performances in it. They're all very subtle. No one's being showy or anything, but they don't need to be. These are men dealing with the pressure, and they can't crack in these moments. And I think all of these actors, a lot of great character actors who are playing the other astronauts in the space program. Yeah. I think it's one of the best ensemble casts that really works well together. They focus on the personal side of Armstrong's life, a look into his life in a way that I didn't know anything about, because you know him as the American hero, but there's a darker side to what his past holds, and I think they did a really good job of that, and I think Ryan Gosling handled the performance really well, bringing that out. Also, the girl playing his wife, I forget her name in the moment, she was really good in the movie.
Claire Foy, that's who it was.
Sorry. She could have been an Oscar nominee, in my opinion.
Great in this movie, man.
Has a lot of really exciting scenes, paced with some great dramatic moments as well. I was never bored. I was on the edge of my seat in a lot of moments in this movie.
Yeah.
And the score does a lot to help with those moments.
It's so good.
Really sells, especially the moon landing moment is just one of the best sequences of the year, in my opinion. He's got a strong vision, and all three films are very different, so I'm interested to see what he'll do next, because he's not pigeonholing himself into one style, one look, one type of story he's going to tell. So I'm a little bit more back on board with Damien Chazelle and interested to see what comes next.
My number 2 is Hereditary. Not a shock. Here's a movie that packs a motherfucking punch, an emotional punch, an artistic punch, and for me personally, a very scary punch. I couldn't sleep for nights after watching the third act of this film. Not just because of the imagery, but because of the idea. Like, is this really happening? Did this movie really go here in the third act? Because you don't really know exactly where everything's going to end up while you're watching it. And that's what I love about the movie-going experience, is when you don't know what's going to happen. This movie is not predictable. You don't know where it's going at all. It's still marinating in my consciousness as we speak. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of the kind of the open-ended things. And was everything as elaborate as they made it seem? Was there a higher something kind of making all this stuff fall into place? Whatever those things are, one thing this movie is not is a crowd pleaser. What I took away from it is it's a family drama about genetic mental health. At its core anyway, and it asks the audience to kind of bear with it as it slowly fills us in on the family. What it morphs into, though, is an unforgettable, terrifying tale of the things in one life that we have no control over, and how those things are coming whether we like it or not. Now, whether you want to take away from this movie that it is about genetic mental health, or there's something else involved, it could be taken metaphorically, it could be taken straightforward. Either way, it doesn't matter, because it's so effective from a first-time filmmaker. Toni Collette, I thought she was the best overall performance, male or female, of the year out of what I saw, and she's completely snubbed. Whatever. I love Hereditary. It's so fucked up. It's one of those movies that's going to stick with me for a long time, and I'm glad.
Ben and I have the same number 1, so we're going to be able to go at the same time.
This hasn't happened in 3 years of Cinema Gulp.
No, it hasn't.
This speaks to the strengths of this movie. I'm going to let Man Bear Pig here do the honors. What's the best movie of 2018 for Cinema Gulp?
For our favorite film of the year,
Annihilation!
Hell yeah. No film is one of the earliest films we saw last year, and no film topped it by the end of the year.
This is one of the most important science fiction movies in recent years. I understand the divisiveness of it amongst viewers. I really do. But I swear to God, I'm so fucking sick of the debate when dumb old people come up to me and say, why don't they just blow the whole damn thing up with a nuclear weapon? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because that isn't this movie.
Exactly.
It's not about destruction. It's about curiosity. It's about creation. That's what I meant. It's about creation.
Destruction and creation.
It's about looking for answers. It's not about blowing stuff up. Sorry. That doesn't mean this movie doesn't have good action, though. It does.
Exactly. And thrills and exciting moments. The Man-Bear-Pig scene is one of the craziest scenes of the whole year. That's another one. Like, there's a scene in Hereditary and a scene in this movie that just are never going to leave my psyche. The most intriguing film of the year, the most intriguing concept of the year for me, the way the themes are utilized, the themes of self-destruction and annihilation, obviously. We talked about in our full review the themes of refraction, the way that's used throughout the film. It's just so unique in terms of its concept. Its sci-fi concept, its depiction of an alien species unlike anything we've ever seen in films before. Beauty and the horror mixture in this film in terms of the production design and the look of things like creatures and the elements of things trapped inside the shimmer. It's just one of the most awe-inspiring films to look at of the entire year. Of a few years, really.
Now seen it 5 times. It's now moved up to being possibly my favorite movie since 2010. I would really have to go back and look at my favorites and compare them all again, but that's just what this movie did to me. Alex Garland is one of my favorite filmmakers working right now. This film did not get the push it deserved, and it needed a push in order to succeed. And I think the marketing campaign was all wrong, and that's unfortunate. But it's true storytelling without telegraphing or perhaps without even completely explaining itself. But that's the point. I think the cast has great chemistry. All 5 of these women are incredible. The small little side scenes with Oscar Isaacs, he's one of the best working today. But I really do love these 5 women and the journey that they go on. Just the fact that the danger is in the environment, it's in the filmmaking itself. Yeah, there's a couple of scenes with some dangerous monsters, but the use of primary colors and how he uses light and all these different color spectrums to kind of make the shimmer look earthly, but almost like it could be like an Endor-ish type of planet, and the disorientation that the camera work gives you as well, it just blows me away.
I have to agree with all of that, 100%. Yeah, the disorienting cinematography, but on purpose. Yeah, it's such a fascinating film to look at, and it evolves. It's a film that you go on this journey with these people, and the reveals of as they get deeper into the shimmer and some of the things that you learn about what's really going on inside of here, the way the story unfolds, and the way that you learn more about these characters, why they've chosen to go inside the shimmer, and what their ultimate fates are. Yeah. I just find it such a compelling piece of filmmaking. This is one that is certainly driving you towards a conclusion. Yeah. And when you get to that third act, yes, there's still things that maybe are left unanswered, but there's so much going on there that there are so many things that are answered, or they give you enough to make your own conclusions out of it. And the third act is somewhat different from the setup of the film. It becomes kind of its own little odd Pink Floyd experience at the end of the film.
That's a good way to put it.
And it's mesmerizing.
Love the score of this movie too. You can listen. It's one of the scores you can listen to it on its own, but it works so perfect in the fabric of the movie.
I really thought that was one thing that maybe Annihilation could have got an Oscar nomination for its score, or maybe for its visual effects. Obviously, neither of them made the list.
Yeah, I would have given it a nomination for cinematography, obviously direction, possibly not any actor ones, but maybe like a SAG for ensemble. But we're talking about this as if it matters.
It's the best film of the year, and it's winning the Film Canister Award. That's all it needs to win. Fuck the Oscar.
Congratulations, Annihilation. You've now made it in one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years.
And the first time that Ben and I both picked the same film as our favorite film of the year. See if that happens again next year.
That was our best of 2018 movie list. We hope you guys liked it. We sure had a fun time giving you our lists.
We did. We always have a great time down on a couple beers and talking about movies.
Drinking my favorite blondes. If you guys like this episode of Cinema Gulp, click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. Someone actually told us the other day, you guys should really be getting paid to go to things like Comic-Con. I said, you know what? I couldn't agree more. So as of right now, we're putting out a campaign to get the other 9,222 subscribers we need by this summer.
Bring it on. Come on. Subscribe now. Now's the time. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Look for us under Cinema Gulp.
Until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm John. We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!